Hi folks, with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you're driving along in your car or your truck, or put in those earbuds and take it all in you're on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of radicalization. Now, what is it? How does it happen? Where does it come from? What views are considered radical? Why are they radical? In what way are they radical? And this has come up a bit because all across the Western world now, whether it's in Australia or Britain or elsewhere, Andrew Tate's become like the real go-to sort of bogeyman, but he's radicalizing young men. He's turning them into misogynists, the patriarchy. Now, I've had a look at, not all of them, but I've had a look at some of Andrew Tate's videos. I can't see where the radicalization or the misogyny comes in. I wouldn't describe him as being, delicate or effete in any way. I think he's certainly not thinking of exquisite good manners when it comes to dealing with women or anything like that. But the sort of women he hangs out with are hardly high society chicks. But again, the radicalization, I don't see it. Is he indelicate? Well, sure. But again, radical or misogynist? Certainly not. I don't think he's radicalizing anybody. Certainly not. From what I can tell, looking at his videos, and the misogyny bit. No. I suppose there's an element of that, but his misogyny is way, way, way less than the misandry that is being pushed all over the Western world. So let's take that into account. And there are screaming radical misandrists all over the Western world. Why are they not accused of radicalizing young girls and the population at large? Why is it just Andrew Tate? Why is it only misogyny that's considered as radical, whereas rampant misandry is considered as who cares? So we need to also keep that in some perspective. But let's have a look at radicalization. Now, radicalization, I suppose the definition of radicalization would be people being encouraged to hold a certain belief which is baseless and untrue, and just factually baseless, and that they act on those views and inflict some sort of inconvenience on others on the basis of them having taken on those views, the views, of course, being baseless. So let's assume, others may have a different interpretation or definition, but that's the one I'll use for the purposes of this presentation. Now, I was looking at a number of sort of talk show type things where, or even town hall type debate meetings, which debates, you couldn't really call them that, but an airing of radical views where radical people are selected to talk. But there's a young woman, she'd be 19 or 20. She represents some student group at the university. She's black and claims to be oppressed and this sort of stuff. So here's a black woman living in one of the richest countries in the world, and going to university in one of those richest countries in the world, while at the same time claiming to be oppressed. That's an interesting one. But anyway, when it comes to, there was discussion about black people first coming to the West as immigrants. And now this started off in, say, the 1950s, in quite small numbers, but in the 1950s. And so this girl's, again, about 20 years old. And so she's one of others. And I've seen multiple, particularly young women, young men, not so much, but the young women in particular. And it's mentioned about that the integration of the early black people coming to the West. I think Britain was the country here. It might have been France, but I think it was Britain. And so the integration, they hung around in groups and formed ghettos and that sort of thing. So this young girl then jumped in at this point and was quite vehement and intense, very emotional about it. And then, now bear in mind that the ancestors that came came to the West between 50 and 60 years before she was born. 50 or 60 years before she was born. So now the chances are that even her, the people that arrived are dead. So she's got no direct connection with them. But nonetheless, she jumps in and says, no, we wanted to integrate. We came to integrate. We came here to help you. We came here to build the country. We came here to do this. We. Victim, oppressed. And she's very emotional, clearly has been radicalized. Now, nobody pushed back. They just indulged her. And I mean, they had looks at her, you poor little thing, you poor little misguided little moron. Now, she's not a high IQ chick, far from it. If high IQ is even 100, I'd be surprised. So she's talking about that she personally came here to the West 60 odd years ago, as a 20-year-old or mid-20s, and encountered all these oppressions, all these racisms, all these whatever, all these the most terrible things were done to her, and she suffers now the personal pain of these things even now. So stop. You weren't even born when this happened. You weren't even alive. The people who came here have been dead before you were born. What are you carrying on about? You personally suffered. You didn't suffer any of these things. How come you're so radicalized to believe that you personally suffered these hurts, these imagined hurt, many of which are imagined? Let's have a look at this. So going back and looking at the relatives of this, it must have been Britain actually, but you're looking at the relatives of this woman, young woman. Now, bear in mind, she's at university doing sociology. Every day she's getting told, evil white Nazis, Hitler everywhere, evil oppressions. And so she's got every day and she's latching onto it. So she has been radicalized. In my view, she's been radicalized to hate white society, to hate white people, and to be seeking vengeance against them. Well, if that's not radicalization, what is it? What would you call it? It's certainly not truth or accurate or anything like that. So anyway, let's go back to her relatives that came. They were black people. I think they came from the Caribbean, as I understand it. So they came to England uninvited. The idea that they were rebuilding anything is nonsense. But because they came from like a third world country, they were given free training to be, I think it was a bus driver, something like that, a bus driver, and then were given a job. So they came from a third world country into a first world country, were given free this, free that, free so-and-so, and straight into a job, gifted a job. So now her argument is that all the black people who came during that time all wanted to integrate into white society. They all wanted to marry white men and women. They all wanted to do that, and they all wanted to do this. And they, what she actually gets confused. These third world people come to a first world country, and they want all the fruits immediately. They want all the fruit right now of an upper middle class existence of people who spend all their lives in the country, who've actually been to a first world school, meritoriously passed exams, meritoriously went to university, meritoriously passed those exams, meritoriously met the requirements of well-paying jobs, and so on. So they don't comprehend that. They say, well, I want what they've got. Why can't I have what they've got? And if I can't have what they've got, then it must be racism, fascism, Hitler. And that's the attitude, and really the attitude I guess she has now. In fact, her relative, again, long dead, her relatives were gifted a place in a first world country, but no, she says, no, we came here to build, we created the Western world, we created the white countries, we did everything, and you white people did nothing. I mean, the absurdity of that is just, it's just but she's very emotional and very radicalized about it, and is seeking vengeance and compensation. So we now have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of third world people, millions of third world people running around the West, the Western world, who are brought in, they're unneeded, unwanted, they produce, create, build, and deliver nothing. And they're there and they've been seriously radicalized. We could say the same about the many, not all, but many of the black people in the United States. If you listen to some of the way some of these people talk, is we were brought over as slaves, we were packed in ships, and we were beaten by evil Nazi, and they're so emotional, so radicalized by it. Well, hold on, wait a minute. Your ancestors came to North America 300 years ago. You're acting like you personally run the slave ship. You personally suffered this and that, and most of these supposed sufferings have been invented by the current modern day propaganda machine anyway. If there was one slave in the whole of North America that ever got bullwhipped, then every slave was bullwhipped, which of course is nonsense. You can't bullwhip your workers and expect them to front up for a hard day's work on the plantation. You can't do it. So this idea is widespread and everything. That's nonsense. So these people have been, though, substantially radicalized. The same goes for sort of lesbian feminists. And there's one recently that I was talking about, we as in women, we were oppressed, in the year 1673, we weren't allowed to own a property bigger than 5 acres or something. 1673? What's this we business? We? What are you talking about, we? That was 300 years before you were fucking born. So we need to understand there is a lot of radicalization going on, but it's not coming from Andrew Tate or anybody like him. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.